Welcome to another episode of 10 Forward Weekly. My name is Mike Fadum, also known as Ambassador Kell. I am your community manager, and I'm very excited today because I am joined by one of my favorite people and one of your favorite people, if everything that I've been reading about Kuumaarke is true. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Kipleigh Brown!
Hi guys, it's so good to be here.
How you doing today?
Doing well. Very
Yeah?
excited about being on the 10 Forward podcast.
We're excited to have you. I got to interview you, I think. Well, it was before the pandemic, so it was at least 3 years ago. Gosh, but so I'm glad to have you back on because that was so much fun, and
It's
it's been too
wonderful
long.
to be here.
How have things been going? How's obviously you're basking in the glow of the launch today and all of the accolades and awards that are being thrown your
Of
way.
course, there's press outside my house. No.
Just people shouting, "Kuumaarke, Kuumaarke!"
Yeah.
uh, but it's been interesting because you've been Kuumaarke now for what, six
Almost,
years now?
it's since 2015 was
Wow.
my first one. Yeah.
So it's almost 10 years.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Isn't that
That's
amazing?
really, really cool. You're almost like your character has been running almost as long as the game has.
Yeah, I came in season 11 was the first Kuumaarke.
I hope someone in chat is reminding me that I captioned you wrong. It's Admiral Kuumaarke now, not Captain Kuumaarke. Listen,
That's true. I didn't realize I would have insisted upon it. Admiral, if you don't mind.
I'll change it. We actually had a whole, you'll get a kick out of this. We had a whole debate internally about this because the press release said both because you're an admiral, but when you're on the ship in charge of your ship, you're a captain because you're in charge of the
Hmm.
ship. And so it's like, well, which do we put? Which is
You could just say Admiral Captain.
Admiral Captain. There we
Every
go.
time you address Kuumaarke, it's Admiral Captain Kuumaarke.
Well, let's start.
She insists upon it.
Yes. We can't listen. The last time someone called her just Captain Kuumaarke, they were thrown out an airlock. We had to go and get them. It was a whole thing. um,
Yes, I don't suffer disrespect. This is Mirror Kuumaarke. It sounds more like
yeah,
coming,
no,
coming through
seriously.
here.
I've been watching too much Bridgerton lately. I go into that voice too easily. But before I get started with peppering you with questions, I just want to show off some of the fan art we got this week. So let me do that really
Yes.
quick. So first of all, Jeff W has sent us his approximation of the Captain Picard or the Picard uniforms from season 3 of Picard using lower decks uniforms with a little bit of edits. That looks great, Jeff. Endeavor had a big stream this week where he gave away our newest legendary bundle, and he got a bunch of ships together. You can see them hovering over Earth here. So thanks for
And
that.
if I may interject quickly, I can't see the art, so if people think I'm just not enjoying it or making comments or thinking that it's great, it's because I actually can't see it. Otherwise, I would be gushing.
Yeah, we have
Sorry,
issues.
Didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine. And finally, Jeff also sent us a shot of, I assume, some variation on the USS Excalibur because it's always the USS Excalibur, but he may have told me something different, and if you did, I apologize, Jeff. All right, so didn't get a lot of fan art this week. I'm judging all of you. Send me more things, but but let's get started with talking about you and how you got started into acting. What was like your first getting bit with the bug?
Well, the first thing I ever did was I played the Witch and the Wizard of Oz in fourth grade.
Ha! That's great.
That was my first exposure to acting, and then I got into it in high school. I was a theater nerd, and so I got into it in high school, and I fell in love with it, and that's kind of when I decided I wanted to do that with my life.
All the way back in high
Which
school.
I don't regret now at all. No, I'm just kidding.
Did you have a whole bunch of people being like, "You'll never make a living doing that"?
Well, no, I wish I'd had a few more. No, it is hard to make a living. No,
Yeah.
I was willing to take the chance. I just really loved it. I started doing theater in Chicago.
Oh, that's awesome. What do you think it
Yeah.
was about those high school experiences that grabbed you and made you sort of think, "Oh, I want to do this forever"?
it's it's hard to say. There's something about embodying a person, a whole nother person, throwing everything that's you into creating this other person, this character. I don't know. It's every. I mean, your every facet of your being, if you really want to get it right, is involved. Your body movements, your cadence, the way you gesture, things like that, that are not me, someone else that I'm creating to give them sort of a three-dimensional feeling, because they're just really words on a page.
Do you think? Do you find yourself? Sorry, just I had a quick audio issue that I have to fix. Do you find yourself feeling like as doing one of those where you plan out every point like that? Are you one of those types of actors, or do you feel like you like it just sort of comes to you and you sort of feel it as you start embodying who the character is?
Probably a little bit of both. I have to sort of get to know the character first. I don't want to come in with like, okay, I'm going to do this and this and this. It's like I have to kind of get to know the character in the context of the dialogue and everything that happens. And then if things come naturally, I'll sort of emphasize them. If I find myself in the moment gesturing a certain way, I'm like, oh, that must be how this person gestures. I'll just hold on to that. Um, and then there are other times, like I do a lot of comedy stuff, and I create characters, and I immerse myself. Like, you probably wouldn't recognize me if you saw me. Like, I have a character named Denise, and she's a Chicago stage manager, and she's got like cropped dark hair, and she walks around with like tools hanging off every part of her body. And like that's the kind of thing where, because it's an original character, I can like give her all the mannerisms and weird gestures and stuff that I want to, like, that makes her seem real. And in fact, I have played her previous to some comedy shows. I walk around like the audience thinks I really am the stage manager, and but I'm like hyper aware of safety. So I'm like, you're standing too close to that plug, and we haven't had it tested for surges yet. Things like that. And like if people, like, it's a well lit theater, but I'll still use a flashlight to get them down the aisle to where they want to sit if they need help. And so you just think it's like this over exuberant stage manager, and then throughout the show it gets more and more exaggerated. Like, by the end of the show, I was walking on stage. I had a log hanging off me, and I had a light attached to my head. All the tech stuff, like tons and tons of gaffer's tape just everywhere.
You say all that, and yet I've met that stage manager, I think.
They are based on some people I have met, but I love the character. I mean, she's so sincere. She just wants everyone to have a safe, fun time. Make sure that you don't go on your MyFace or Facebook.
Oh, that's great. And what? Sorry,
during the performance.
You might have said,
Yeah.
and I might have missed it. What show was this for?
This was a show at the Steve Allen called The Tomorrow Show, and I've done it. The Steve Allen is a theater, so I've done like live theater. I did something. Elaine Boozler did a show. She's a comedian, and she did a show in Friday Harbor, San Juan, Washington, and I did it for that.
Oh,
it was like a
cool.
benefit, and I've done it a couple times for my husband, Emo, who's a comedian.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant you just did it for your husband around the house.
Well, I'm not saying I don't, but no, I've done it a few times. It's like, I call it an ambient character. It's like the comedy is very subtle at first, and then by the end, you see that this was not a real person.
Yeah, a lot of that happens in like immersive theater stuff these days, which I love.
Mm-hmm.
Of getting wander around as a character and
I
have
love
people
that.
feel like, is that a actor, or was that a really weird person?
People say that about me just every day at the
Yeah, me too.
grocery store, wherever I am.
So you landed in Chicago to do acting. Were you what were you doing in Chicago when you started out there?
I did uh, a lot of, there's a theater in Evanston that was a really great theater. And I did several shows there. And I was also auditioning for commercials and for TV shows. I just, was starting out with that because there's casting there as well. I did a Glade commercial.
Nice.
Should have gotten an Oscar for that. It was
Did they give
really
you at least give
heartwarming.
you some free Glade?
No, but I got to keep the bathrobe. I was wearing a bathrobe on the shoot. I got to
Nice.
keep it. Yeah. So I did some commercials and I did some independent films until I decided, it was time to
Yeah.
make the leap of faith to LA.
It is kind of the
And
epicenter down here.
yeah, it's either New York or LA, depending on you want to do theater, do you want to do so. And my
Yeah.
sister was out here, so it was easier.
Oh, that's nice.
I didn't have to come out completely by myself.
Yeah, so many of my friends down here in LA, just made the move with nobody. And yeah, apparently you spend like a year or two just being like, well, I don't know anyone here. This is
Yeah, that's
great.
brave. That's very brave. Yeah.
So what do you think made you feel like it was time, like, I've done Chicago, it's time to go follow my dreams and, get on the bus with $10 in my pocket and head to LA?
God, how did you know that?
I,
Um,
it's sort of a common story.
it was $9.50,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
afraid.
All right.
Um, I was in like my mid-20s and I thought, look, now's the time. You know, you want to, it's like, what are you waiting for?
Yeah. Yeah, you got to do it eventually.
I just had to have the goal to do it. It's intimidating because in Chicago, it's a smaller pond, so you can be a bigger fish. Not that I was a big fish, but I, had a good run of theater there. But I knew that I would be a nobody in LA. Um, and so it was daunting, but it's like, what the heck? It's an adventure. You'll never know unless you try.
You can
And I'm
always
glad I
go
did.
back if you fall on your face.
That's
Which you
right.
didn't, obviously.
Came close to it several times, but and that's shortly, like maybe a year and a half or 2 years after I moved here, I got the Enterprise part of
Oh.
Jane Taylor. And that, like, at that moment, I was like, it was all worth it. It's all worth it for the rest of my life. This is seriously. I mean, that was like, if that had been the only thing I'd done, I'd still would have felt like it was worth it because I'm an enormous Trek fan, obviously.
Were you a Trek fan growing up?
Yes. Oh, yes. The original series and then the Next Generation. Loved the Next Generation.
Yeah.
Um, obsessively. I what I love about science fiction in general and Star Trek in particular is science fiction is the only genre that lets you step outside the human condition to look back in on it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And Gene Roddenberry really embraced that too by not just making it lasers and guns and ships flying and battles, it like really substantive topics that were covered
Yeah.
in the original series and in Next Gen. Like I remember the episode Measure of a Man in the
Oh
Next
God,
Generation.
yes. That's such a good
That
one.
like blew my mind because of all of the talk of, it's something that I'd never really considered before, but like the idea of what is consciousness, what is sentience, what delineates between life and a thing that's not alive.
Yeah.
And that inspired me. That I was hooked.
Yeah. That episode, man, that just blows me away every time. That
Me
and
too.
the Inner Light, the one.
Inner
Yeah,
Light.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Hmm.
at home over Christmas and it came on TV, and I was like, I'll just watch some Star Trek while I'm working out, and then I was sobbing onto my elliptical, and it was a bad plan.
That one. Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah. So I have to ask the question then, since you started on TNG and TOS, Kirk or
Hmm.
Picard? I know it's the on-the-spot question.
That's a very hard question because they are so different.
Yeah.
Like it's like I appreciate Kirk for being kind of like the sometimes glib cowboy that he is and rule breaker. And then you have this Shakespearean man who's rather, tied to the rules, although he will break them if he must. But, and so they're two completely different characters. But I would have to say, if a gun was to my head, Picard, only because I kind of grew up with that series.
Yep, me too.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
So let's go from that right to the big questions then. So some people are asking in chat, were you aware of STO before Al first approached you?
I was aware of it. Um, uh, yes, friends of mine had talked about playing it, and I was looking into like how I could play it and stuff like that. And then I met Al, and it was like, okay, this
I'll
is
just be in it
awesome.
instead.
What the heck? Why not? Yeah.
I love. I mean, tell the story of how he first approached you, if you can. I don't know. It was at a convention. I don't know what was going on, but
Um, well, it had happened at a mutual friend of ours had said, maybe, and I was doing Star Trek Continues also at the time, would you, you should check out Kipleigh. Um, yeah, our friend James Kerwin, who is a director on Star Trek Continues, and he told Al, he's like, she'd love to do something if you can find a place for her. So, and then Al was like, yeah, I think it happened that way. I wasn't there for that conversation, but that's my understanding. Like so it was more like me saying, do you need anyone?
just a question. Do you
I mean, I'm available, so.
Well, and I was reading, I don't know if you saw on Twitter, but Jesse Heinig, our senior systems designer, just posted a thread on Twitter, literally like 5 minutes before we went live,
Mhm.
of like the initial thought process behind Kuumaarke, and also a whole bunch of stuff about how amazing you are. And
Oh, I'm gonna look that one up. Sure, for sure.
I just tagged you in it, so.
Oh, good.
But he was talking about how early on. Because the first original race we made for STO was the Teferi, and they didn't have, sort of a signature character. And so they wanted to create a character for the Lucari that could sort of be a window for the player through to the universe of, like, making the idea of exploring and all of that Star Trek stuff new again. Did they talk to
Yeah,
you about any of that stuff before you got
they
started?
did.
Yeah.
Yes. Um, yeah, when I got the script, I had a lot of questions and stuff, and we talked about that. And it's interesting because I was like super excited, and I had dinner with some STO guys at a convention before this, and I'm like, what if Kuumaarke, or my character, I don't know if she had a name yet,
Yeah.
like had a completely different accent from anything you've ever heard. Like he could make up an accent. And so you guys came up with like this idea of like she would prolong her R's and do all this stuff like in like just an idea. And then when I showed up at the studio, I was like, okay, so I practiced this and this is how it sounds. And it was like Transylvanian. And it sounded like I was Dracula. And so I'm like, I'm obviously doing this wrong because that's not what you intended. And you guys were like, well, do you do any other accents? I'm like, English. Okay, there we go.
Someone was actually saying on Twitter they weren't sure if you were English and used an American accent for all your other appearances, or if you were American and used an English
That's
accent
a
for Kuumaarke.
compliment. I am a dual American British citizen. My mother was English, so I grew up with an English accent, so I had that advantage.
Oh, nice. I had a
Yeah.
friend in middle school whose dad was British and mom was American, and she could just switch back and forth between the accents like nothing. It was fun to
Yeah.
watch. So,
Yeah.
did you have any idea starting out with Sunrise that Kuumaarke was going to continue on and being a recurring character like this, or did you think it was just going to be a one and done thing?
I thought it was one and done. I really did. I every time you guys call me and are like, we have some Kuumaarke, I'm like, oh my God, great. Like I just love it so much that, it's like when I got to come back, amazing. And then again and again, and I'm like, oh my God, I feel so fortunate.
Well, she's become such a popular character with the fan base. It's so interesting. I mean, besides the usual professions of love and requests for Kuumaarke to marry their character, there's just such a like a hopefulness and joy to her that a lot of times you don't get in modern storytelling. I think that's why people are so connected to her and want her to keep coming back.
Yeah, there is a new tendency to have dark, cynical tales and often dark, cynical people, not all of them. But there is the wide-eyed wonder. Like you forget when you're immersed in Star Trek, and I think you said this earlier, you forget you're in space. You're
Yeah.
like exploring the cosmos, encountering alien species and wormholes and nebulas. And it's like you said, having the newbie be the eyes again to refresh anew that concept of venturing out into the unknown.
Yeah. And now she's sort
Yeah.
of gone from the newbie space captain to, she's defending herself, she's a warrior. We talked last time we talked, you talked a little bit about, taking her from that on that journey from like well, I'm just new at this. We've got our first spaceship to like I can defend myself.
Yes, yes. Well, like I love the line from the first from Sunrise. It just shows you how new she is when she transports. She's like, it's so tingly. It's like you wouldn't even think about that because we're so used to seeing people transport. But now she's like transporting all over the place. But yeah, it went in increments, which I thought was great because in Sunrise, brand new, and then in the next episode, it was being like ushered out into the unknown with Starfleet kind of helping out, so we're not, the Lucari aren't, it was the first ship, the LSS Concordium was the ship. And so that like, it was like hand holding the Lucari. And then after that, it's like they started to sort of become more independent, always with the help of Starfleet. But, then they got the LSS Ruskava. They built their own ship, and you see this society starting to embrace something they had never embraced before. And then of course, so she goes from Administrator Kuumaarke
I like that you
to
still put the role in there. That's a nice callback.
yeah, from Administrator now to Admiral. I mean, damn,
Yeah,
that's
that's a
a
heck of a
lot
glow
of
up.
yeah, and the character, it's still Kuumaarke, but she's seasoned now without losing, I hope, still the sense of wonder at this entire cosmic scape that she can explore.
That's awesome. Have you thought ever? Well, how do you approach that as an actor? Because you pick up Kuumaarke and then you'll put her down for a year or two, and then you'll come back and somebody has to kind of be like, so here's everything that happened since you last did this. How do you approach that as an actor, like integrating that all into the performance and getting the character to come along on these steps?
Um, well, I do have for myself some recordings from Sunrise so that I can always go back and hear exactly the tone and the voice. And so I make sure that I don't suddenly come in with like, suddenly she has a lower voice. It's like, I have to remind myself exactly what
Oh
pitch.
no, it's Dracula again.
This is Kuumaarke. Yeah, so I do that, and then I go through the script, and I'm pretty, I mean, I could probably show you. I don't know if you can see this.
Maybe. Oh my god, yeah, we can see that.
But that's the script, and I go through it over and over and over again, just to get to know it, get the ins and outs, and then I highlight different colors for different emotions. So like, and it's so that when I'm in the studio, it's built in and ready to go. I'm not discovering it in the moment. So,
That's cool.
So like, yellow is like imparting information. This is what we're doing. This is it. And then like anything that's blue is emotional. And I don't do that with normal scripts, but it's because you're jumping very quickly through the lines in the studio. I want to have just that launching point of this is what I've because in regular television or something, you're memorizing it. And so then it gets into but this you're not. So that's what I need, these little launch points. Yeah. I also do things like in one episode, she encountered cosmozoans, the space whales.
Oh yeah.
And so I drew a bad picture of a whale next to that line, just so I would remember that I'm looking at something that's beautiful and awe-inspiring.
It's a whale.
It looks more like a tuna fish, but it was supposed to be a whale. Yeah.
It's kind of a Shakespearean experience almost, because you get you just get your lines. You don't get anything else to work with on these voiceover scripts. I know like Al and the gang work with you to kind of tell you what's going on in the studio, but is it weird to not have anything to play off of when you're used to like screen or stage acting?
It was at first. Yeah, it was at first, but now not so much. Because I'm always playing off the player. Even though I don't know who they are. But that's I always know that's, there will be other dialogues with other people, but I'm always aware of my relationship, shall we say, with the player.
Nice. Last year, you got asked to take Kuumaarke in a completely different direction because we brought in Mirror Kuumaarke.
Yes.
What was that approach like? Because then you've spent years building up optimism and hope and all this stuff with this character, and then you have to throw that all out and make her, murder Kuumaarke.
Yeah. Well, it was fun, I will say. I think you guys called her Evil Mary Poppins. I think that's what the cryptic term for her was. I mean, you'll notice that my voice is a lot lower when I play Mirror Kuumaarke, because there was something, it felt wrong somehow to have that very sort of the upper, sort of gentle voice that is Kuumaarke, saying horrible things to people. So I kind of lowered it to give her more of like a, oh, darling. I don't know. Maybe I was trying to protect her purity. I don't know.
Well, she's your baby after all this time. You should get to protect her if you want.
But I enjoyed also exploring like the naughtiness of Mirror Kuumaarke and having her, just, I don't know, like taunt people and threaten them.
You and Chase are friends in real life because you've done some stuff together, and like I know you guys never actually got to play off each other in those scenes, but getting to watch you play off each other anyway, as you two were both clearly having so much fun with the mirror versions of your characters, was really, really fun. Did you guys ever talk about that after the fact?
I haven't seen her in a few years, so not since Mirror Kuumaarke.
Okay.
I think we emailed. We're like, cool.
Nice.
And I believe, is she the one who shot me to
Yes,
death?
she did kill you.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to have a chat with
Spoilers,
her about
darlings.
that. Oh God, that episode was out, right?
Yeah, it's been out. It's been out for years.
I'm
Well,
so
not
sorry.
years, months, but still. You're good. You're good. You're good. Everyone here has
I'm the
played
worst
it, I promise
person
you.
ever. I hate people who give spoilers.
It's okay. I don't think anyone here hasn't played it. I think if you're the kind of STO player who logs into a weekly stream to see an interview with the actress who plays Kuumaarke, you're probably played the episodes when they came out.
Okay. Apologies to anyone who hasn't.
John Davis in particular in chat says you're good, so he's absolved you. So just it's that you're good.
Thank you. I feel better. I'm gonna throw darts at my own face after we hang out. In penance.
All right. Well, we're gonna open this up to some character questions, but just not character questions, to some questions from chat. So if you guys have stuff you want to ask Kipleigh, put it in. Keep in mind that I am always watching, and if you ask something weird, she will not hear it. And I want to ask about the latest update. So we are definitely going into a spoiler zone now. Spoiler zone. But you recorded this, I want to say, a couple of months ago now. Was there any, or was it more recent than that?
It was like 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Okay, so it's fresh on your mind. Is there were there any new exciting surprises for you? Was there something on the script that was like, oh?
I will say that this script had it all. It's not that there was necessarily anything brand new and different, although there was. I will say that one thing, but it has the science. I love the science stuff. I love that she is a scientist and her fascination with things and wanting to find the answer, and it has all kinds of that. It has battles, and she's become kind of a badass. She's from wide-eyed wonder to now it's like, oh, another battle. This is how we, she's been in them before, and she comports herself very well. And it has that aspect. It has the mystery, something's going on. Why? What's causing this? And then the new thing, I don't think she's ever done this before, is infiltration. Going aboard a potentially enemy ship to mess around with their stuff to get a mission done. I liked that. That was kind of cool. And I had some of my favorite. I know that some people call it technobabble. I don't think it's babble. I mean, I think it's all. But you know how like in Star Trek they call it like, oh, the
reverse the polarity of the.
Yeah. But there were some really cool concepts in the scientific parts too, about like temporal distortions and vortexes and tholians, and their somewhat potentially negligent ideas about how to categorize things. Nice. And I thought that was interesting. And I always remember, I always think, like when I had a little conversation with a tholian, in my head I'm thinking, it's a giant bug.
It is a giant crystal bug.
It is a giant bug. Yes.
Do you find yourself, like when you're in the sound booth, just like picturing it all in your head, all around you? Or is it more just kind of like words on a page?
I try to do both. If I get too immersed in it being around me, I'll lose my place. I do a lot of that at home so that it's built in. Like if there's a line, I don't know. I usually, like in the booth, I can stand up or sit down. And at home, when I'm practicing, I sit down. But then if there's something where I know that she must be standing, like she's at a certain console or something, I'll stand up just to get the feeling of that.
Nice.
This particular. But I have a vivid imagination, so I have all this
I love that.
I picture it.
All right. So questions from chat. Trackspert wanted to know if you could give us either a demonstration of how you do Kumarke's voice, or if that's too complicated, could you instead read a Shakespearean monologue as Kumarke? So maybe the first one, unless you have to be or not to be, like sitting out there ready to
Well,
go.
let's try this. It might not get through the whole thing, but when in disgrace, with fortune in men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state. That's a sonnet
Oh, that's beautiful.
from Shakespeare. And so, yes, I can talk like Kuumaarke. She's very nervous right now because she's not used to coming out, unless she has a mission and lines given to her.
That's all right. You don't have to improv a whole Kumarke scene with me if you
I
don't
know, I
want
could,
to.
like, to be or not to be? That is the question. No, that's more Picard, I think.
Oh, he did do that sonnet that one time. Admiral Sean wants to know what your favorite Chicago food is. I have a feeling this is a person from Chicago, which means there's probably a right answer.
I like Chicago-style pizza.
Nice.
I like it. The deep dish. Yeah.
I will let
deep dish Chicago pizza.
I will let our producer from Chicago know that you said that, and he will love you forever. Duncan, Idaho, with what this is based on the newest mission. So spoilers again, everybody. If you need to jump ahead 5 seconds or pause for a minute, but I wanted to know if there's anything you added to your personal view of Kuumaarke based on the other ship captain in the episode, like implied mentorship role or career history.
I'm trying to wrap my head around that question.
It's okay. I read it pretty much as he asked it, and I was hoping you would understand it a little better.
You know what? It's a nice rite of passage, actually, because it was the Lucari that were being mentored and helped along, and so it's kind of like the student has become the teacher, and I love that. I do love. There's a calmness and a surety to her now that wasn't quite there before, and I do love, like, I some of there are some lines, and I'd have to find them, but where it's like, it's all right, we'll deal with that when it happens, and I like that. It's like, I've been through many infiltrations and battles, and we're going to be all right. It's a nice turnabout.
That's cool. I like that. As I'm looking down for the next question, did you know that this has only been like a year and a half for Kuumaarke, by the way? It started in like 2409 and it's 2411 now, so a lot has happened in a very short period of time.
Dang, I did not know that, because unfortunately, I was telling Mike earlier, I have a Mac, an old Mac, and I really want to play the game, and my Mac is not going to do it. It's like, it's out of memory and stuff.
Yeah.
So I am like considering just saving up and getting some kind of a cheap PC exclusively to play Star Trek Online, because I'm dying to play it. Dying.
I know many people who A, do that, and B, a different number of many people who would love to guide you through the game.
I would need it. I would definitely need it.
If you ever do get the, if you ever do get it and you want to come on and do a like Kipleigh Plays STO stream, I would love that. That would be very fun.
Absolutely.
This is sort of a morbid question, but Te Rabbit, I think that's how you spell that, or pronounce that, says, please never do this, but if Kuumaarke was going to die in game, how would you like her to go out?
Saving a race of people or a planet, putting herself between hundreds of thousands of innocent souls and the danger. Yeah. It's a little cliche, but it seems like something she would do, but it better not happen.
Yeah, exactly. No, with riots in the streets, chairs thrown through our office windows would be a bad idea. Bloodleaf WoW wants to know, well, they wanted to know whose idea it was, but I'm fairly certain it was Al and Paul's idea. But they wanted to know what your reaction was to the implication that Mira Kuumaarke and Mira Lita might have had a past relationship before all of the things that went down in those episodes.
intriguing, definitely dangerous ideas. Like those two evil souls having a relationship. It added a lovely little undercurrent to, the tension between them. Yeah, I like that. I like having a backstory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. This is a weird request, so I'm going to explain the context first, and you might already
Okay.
know it. Did you ever play the TNG VHS board game as a child?
No.
Okay, so there's a bit
No.
in that game where the Robert O'Reilly's Klingon, who is not Gowron but looks exactly like Gowron, every few minutes tells you to experience beige, and so Big Papa Tart would like to know if you would mind
Experience
beige,
B.
B-I-J, would like to know
And
if
what
you would.
is that? So I
It's
can say
some
it
sort of
properly.
word of suffering in Klingon.
Shall I say it as Kuumaarke or Klingon or both?
Let's do both. That sounds fun.
All right. Have you ever experienced beige?
Clip
And
that.
then, have you ever experienced beige?
That's fabulous.
My brother-in-law, he calls me Kipleigh. That's my Klingon name.
Ah,
It's not Kipleigh.
it's
It's
Kipleigh.
Kipleigh.
I
Kipleigh.
love that. I love that a lot.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, tons of people saying I should send you a PC if I had that budget. But yes, they are saying I should send you free ships on your account when you do get a PC, and yes, we will definitely do that.
Oh, okay. Yay.
Let's see. Okay. People are now writing the next episode with Kuumaarke in disguise as a Klingon. That would be hilarious. All right. Well, it looks like that is all of the fan questions that we've got coming in. But I just wanted to say, I think I speak for all of us in all the comments we've gotten tonight. Just thank you so much, Kipleigh, for being such a big part of the game and creating such a wonderful character that we've all grown so attached to that people are now threatening me if we ever kill her off. It's really a tribute to the performance that you've been putting on for the past almost decade. My God, with this amazing character who really embodies Star Trek. So we all really appreciate you.
Oh, I appreciate you guys so much. I can't tell you what a joy this is in my life. And if you didn't like Kuumaarke, there would be no Kuumaarke. I love doing it. I'm so grateful I get to do it, and I love all you guys for making it happen.
Glad. So if people want to find more of your stuff, where should they go?
They can go to Kipleigh.com,
Oh, you got your
which is
your
my
first
website.
name as a website. Wow.
That's the advantage of having a really bizarre first name. I will say one caveat, is that the like I believe it's Wix. I had it set up so that I could add and change and do anything I wanted, and then recently they made it excessively complicated, and I have not updated it. I'm still looking for a new website where I can do it myself, because they're like, oh, you could ask an expert and pay them so much per hour.
No.
And it's like, that's what they want to, and I'm like, no, I want to do it myself, but I don't want to have to get a degree in programming to do it.
Yeah. In all
It's not as
seriousness,
updated as it should be, and it will be soon.
in all seriousness, you have my email. All my websites are on Wix, so if you need help with that, let me know.
Oh my God, I'm going to take you up on that. Yeah, it's dynamic pages, the thing. That's what's getting me crazy.
Oh, yeah. We did get one more fan question to throw in here quickly
Okay.
before we go. Trexpert wanted to know, can you talk a little bit about your Enterprise episode and what it was like being directed by LeVar Burton?
Yes. Okay. Well, I've told this story before, and I hope that it's not old. People heard it, but
Have you ever been to a Star Trek convention? Because they tell the same stories every year there.
Okay, so I don't feel so bad. All right. Well, I'm going to start with the audition because when I got the call to audition for Enterprise, I was so excited. But I also knew that you don't want to go in there being a mega fan that you are, like showing them, I'm a mega fan. I love Star Trek. I'm a Star Trek fanatic. Because apparently in the past they've had issues with things disappearing from the set. I
Oh
guess from
no.
like certain people just want to take a souvenir or stuff, and so it's like maybe just tone down the fangirl a bit. So I was like, Star Trek, what's that? I don't know. So I went in and I did the first audition, and then I got the call back, and then they said, the director's going to be in there, just so you know. And I'm like, okay, but they didn't tell me who. So I'm playing it like all cool, like Star Trek, whatever. And I go in and LeVar Burton is sitting right there. Better than the audition was the acting I had to do not to freak out, to still play it cool and not be like, oh my God, Jodie LaForge is right here. That was an amazing moment.
It's very nice to meet you, Mr. Burton. Never heard of you before. Definitely not.
Mr. Who? Yes. Levar? Yeah, that was a thrill, and it was, and then when I got the part, oh my God. And then on set, Jane Taylor was through, obviously, like, died in a battle. And she's appearing as a vision to Trip. And he wanted a certain level of, like, she's been dirtied up in a battle. And so I remember I would go into makeup and they did it, and then I'd go down and he'd say, 20% more. And then they'd go up and they'd dirty me up a little bit more. And I'd come down. He's like, yeah, like, I think we did it twice. He's like, that's it. That's the one.
Make her look really dead.
Yeah, well, like the soil, like dirt on the uniform and the hair not perfect. And yeah. But he had a very specific vision for like how she should appear. And it worked because it's kind of creepy in a cool way.
Yeah.
I do claim, I know this is technically by the rules, not exactly true, but I could claim to be the only red shirt to speak after death. But I know there are some hardcores out there that would be like, no, you have to be in security, to be, because the red shirts were, but I would like to, just as the trophy of my life, have that one thing, the only red shirt to speak after death.
I'll go to the trophy store up the street and get you a
it's
karate trophy.
And,
and then people are going to come by your grave and go, so why isn't she talking? I don't know.
That's a good point. Well, I'll have to work on that.
All right. Well, Kipleigh, it has been absolutely fabulous having you on.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you for coming. I am going
Anytime.
Okay. I'll hold you to that. I'm going to quickly look for someone on Twitch for us to raid. Let's see. I think we will raid. Have you ever heard of the Klingon Pop Warrior?
I have not.
She sings pop songs in Klingon. You can find it on Spotify.
Oh my God, I'm going to look her up. I love it.
It's great. So we'll go ahead and rate her. But again, just thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you. It's always such a pleasure chatting with you. And we'll have to check in again at the next mission.
Absolutely, and thank you.
Yeah, of course. All right.
Live long and prosper.
Ooh, yes. Or Kapla! Or Kipleigh!
Kipleigh!
Kipleigh! Bye, everybody. We'll see you next